Alright, so this is my week in review because I've been quite busy this week, so I haven't been able to make a video for every single show. So in this video, I'm going to cover Monday Night Raw, Friday Night Smackdown, NXT, and AEW. I won't go as deep into AEW since I'm going to be making a video right after talking about the upcoming AEW Revolution pay-per-view tomorrow, but I will talk about what happened this week. And I have my notes with me this week in my handy-dandy Animal Crossing notebook. Alright, so if I'm starting with Monday Night Raw, the first thing I have to start with was the championship matches between The Miz and Bobby Lashley, because there were three of them. It was so well told, having that story the way it was. I mean, I do wish that The Miz had the title for longer, but I could not be happier. Sorry. I could not be happier for Bobby Lashley. He honestly should have been champion a long time ago. He should have won the WWE title back in 2007, I believe it was, when he was feuding with John Cena for the WWE title. 2 pay-per-views in a row, they actually had matches, and John Cena defeated him both times. I think Bobby Lashley, though, should have had a title reign then, but you know, he's not the best in the microphone. He did not have a manager. Now being with the Hurt Business and having MVP as his mouthpiece is absolutely amazing. I mean, this is Bobby Lashley at his absolute best. So for him to win the title now is perfect for his career. And I'm really excited to hopefully see him versus Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. I know we saw them fight in, the middle of last year for Drew McIntyre's title, and Drew McIntyre defeated him, but that was during his Lana days and not during his Hurt Business days, so it's a lot different. This is a completely different Bobby Lashley that we're dealing with now. But, I mean, props to Miz, too, though, for playing the amazing heel champion at the time. So props to him and props to Bobby Lashley. That was amazing. And now, speaking of Bobby Lashley, you had... it all started with him losing his title, losing his U.S. title to Matt Riddle. So now Matt Riddle is the new Intercontinental Champion, which I'm really enjoying. I'm really enjoying his Intercontinental title reign. I think it is, he's so talented. So, and now seeing him and having that match with Ali was amazing. I mean, the two of them put on a freaking show. I mean, they put on a show. So that was fantastic. Wait, did I say Intercontinental title? I meant U.S. title. You didn't hear that. So, they switch the titles in the show so often. It's hard to keep track sometimes. I don't know why they keep switching them back and forth. I'm not really sure what that accomplishes, but they do. And, but anyway. So, as you can see, I'm wearing my Asuka shirt. That is because our wonderful WWE Raw Women's Champion, the Empress of Tomorrow, today, yesterday, the day before that, and for days to come, has been injured accidentally last week in a tag team match against Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. There was a kick to the face by Shayna Baszler that noticeably knocked out a tooth out of Asuka's mouth and apparently gave her a concussion. Charlotte came out on Raw and said, basically told the story about what happened and said that she believes Asuka will be back because Asuka is a fighter, and I really hope Asuka's back because, like I've said in many videos prior to this, WWE has a tendency of screwing Asuka before WrestleMania, so I'm just praying that she's back in time. And of course, in typical Charlotte fashion, Charlotte comes out and says, I want the Raw Women's Championship. Now, the thing with Charlotte is we knew she was going to have a match at WrestleMania. I mean, she's Charlotte Flair. She has to. You can't have WrestleMania without Charlotte Flair. I think she was supposed to have a match with Lacey. Obviously, Lacey got pregnant. That could not happen. So Charlotte came out and she said, when I debuted, I didn't really care to get the women's championship because Asuka was doing so well, and she made it sound like I allowed Asuka to stay champion because I didn't want it, and by saying that, it came off as very heel. But so if it was anyone else, I would say, oh yeah, she's turning heel. But the thing is, that's just Charlotte. That's just her personality. Or at least her on-screen personality. So I think, it makes complete sense for her to say something like that. I wouldn't mind Charlotte versus Asuka at WrestleMania, especially if Asuka wins, because I feel like she deserves redemption for their last Mania match when Charlotte ended Asuka's undefeated streak. So I think this would be a great redemption story. I know Rhea Ripley is debuting soon on Monday Night Raw. If she debuts before WrestleMania, I would really like to see her added to that match. I don't really know what else that they would do with her at WrestleMania. Unless they throw her in a random tag team, I don't know. But, and then you also have Braun Strowman. I have no idea what they're doing with Braun Strowman. They had him team up with Adam Pearce for a tag team title shot. They got to be building up to something with him. I'm not sure what. Hopefully it pays off. Then you have Bad Bunny as the 24/7 champion. Now, a lot of people are probably disappointed. I mean, from what I've read online, that we don't see R-Truth every week with the title because he was absolutely hilarious with it. But I don't mind, a little change of pace for a short bit. I mean, I don't want to see him with the title for, 2 months. That'd be ridiculous. He'd be the longest reigning 24/7 champion. That'd be really ridiculous. But I don't think people should be as hard on Bad Bunny as they are. Because I heard that he is training really hard at the WWE Performance Center and he wants to actually be a wrestler. So if this isn't just a couple of times showing up, no, he's been there every single week. So I really do think he wants to become a wrestler. But I will say this, the best part every single week for me of Monday Night Raw is Randy Orton, Alexa Bliss, and The Fiend. Specifically Alexa Bliss fucking killing this character. The video package where she was talking to him when he was getting interviewed, and all of a sudden, a possessed version of Randy Orton showed up on the screen. I don't know if it was supposed to be some demon or what, but it was just the coolest shit ever. I mean, I am loving it, and I'm so curious to see when the Fiend's going to return, in what capacity he's going to return, what he's going to look like. Will he look any different? I mean, I'm so glad that Alexa Bliss has been there weekly, kind of, her and Randy Orton continuing this storyline has been absolutely amazing. And I've said it before, Alexa Bliss's best work, in my opinion, of her career, honestly. So that's my view. That's my review and my rants of Monday Night Raw. So moving on to Smackdown, you had the steel cage match between Daniel Bryan and Jey Uso. The winner would face Roman Reigns at WWE Fastlane pay-per-view on March 23rd, I believe it is. So I loved Daniel Bryan's promo when he first came out. I loved that he attacked Jey Uso before their match backstage. This new aggressive Daniel Bryan, I'm loving so much because, I was kind of missing that from him recently. So I'm loving that. I was so excited that he won. I'm excited to see him versus Roman Reigns at the next pay-per-view. I don't think he's going to win because I don't think they would take Roman Reigns out of the main event of WrestleMania. I think in WWE's eyes, and specifically Vince's eyes, Roman Reigns is too big of a draw to not be in the main event of WrestleMania. So I do still think it's going to be him versus Edge for the Universal Championship. Maybe they could throw Daniel Bryan in there. I'm not make it a triple threat like they did at WrestleMania 30. It's possible. I guess we'll have to see. I'm still confused as to what they're doing with Rollins still. I don't know why Murphy showed up backstage wanting to work for him again. I guess they just threw out the fact that they hated each other and that Murphy was dating Rey Mysterio's daughter. I guess they just was like, whatever, forget that storyline. And now they're doing a new Rollins versus Cesaro feud, which I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm down for that. The two of them will put on amazing matches, so I'm cool with that part. Sorry, I keep looking down at my notes. I want to make sure that I get everything. So now you have the Women's Tag Team Championship match at WWE Fastlane being Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair versus Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Now, I have an issue with that. Why? Is there a reason for it? Sasha and Bianca are not going to win the titles. Why isn't the title match going to Naomi and Lana, or Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke, or the Riot Squad, or Natalya and... Natalya and Tamina? I don't know why. Especially Natalya and Tamina and Naomi and Lana, because they've shown weekly that they can not only be dominant tag teams, but also they've already had interactions with the tag team champions, especially Lana and Naomi. So to randomly just give the tag team title shot to Sasha and Bianca, I feel like this was Vince just being like, oh yeah, they're going to have a match at WrestleMania against each other. We probably shouldn't leave them off the card. Oh yeah, we have a tag team division. Give them a tag team title shot. I don't know. I just think it was just thrown together. I don't know if it's going to end with one of them turning on each other. I've been saying that for a while and it hasn't been happening, so I don't know. You add Reginald into that. I will say this again. I'm not a fan of Reginald. I'm glad Sasha slapped him. I'm glad Carmella fired him. Kind of confused that Nia Jax said he was cute. Kind of confused. I don't know what's going on there, but okay. That's something. I guess we'll see. I'm excited that they're still hyping Big E versus this new version of Apollo. He is really taking this new character and running with it. So I give him props for that. I mean, he is taking it very seriously, and I think he realizes that this is probably the biggest push he's going to get in his career right now, and he knows that if he does well, then his career goes up. If it doesn't, this may be his last push. Otherwise, he may get his future endeavors, because WWE tends to do that. They'll give, these mid-carders a couple different pushes, little ones here and there, and if they're not a fan, or if the fans aren't fans, then eventually they kind of go sour on them, and they just kind of let them go. And but going back to the women's tag team titles will bring me now to NXT. So I love the women's tag team title match. Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez, amazing. Dakota Kai came off as such a face during that match. I loved it, but like a badass face. Her and Shayna Baszler with their past, and that spot where Shayna was about to step on her arm like she did, when they had their past feud, and then she got out of the way and punched Shayna in the face. I absolutely loved it. It was like, I'm no longer going to get pushed around. I'm a badass now, and you're going to see it. And then Raquel Gonzalez, the show off with her and Shayna, and her and Nia, fantastic. I don't know what that ending was about. Technically, Dakota Kai was choked out and passed out to Shayna Baszler, but she was not the legal competitor in that match. Raquel Gonzalez was. So the fact that the referee was knocked out, and then Adam Pearce shows up and brings in a Raw referee to, say that Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler won, which they didn't because Dakota Kai was not the legal competitor, makes me wonder, was that Adam Pearce wanting to keep the tag titles on Raw / or Smackdown? I don't know. You saw him and Regal talking backstage. There is a lot of rumors behind that conversation. Regal said he was going to have an announcement that's going to affect the women's division or the women's tag division. I don't know. I was hoping that at Fastlane we would get Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai getting a title match. Instead, randomly it goes to Sasha and Bianca Belair. Don't understand why. There is an NXT pay-per-view before WrestleMania. They could do it there. They could do it at WrestleMania. I'm not really sure what they're going to do. I wouldn't mind seeing it at WrestleMania. I think that maybe Regal might be thinking about creating his own women's tag team championships for NXT. Since there are so many women's teams in NXT. I really don't know. I'm very curious what he's going to do. Next week's show is going to be amazing. I mean, the card for next week's NXT is better than the cards for most takeovers. I mean, we have Adam Cole versus Finn Balor for the NXT World Championship. And then you have Io Shirai versus Toni Storm for the NXT Women's Championship. I mean, those are two amazing matches in one night. You know, normally you would see like one being the main event of one night, one being the main event of another, but they're both in the same night. I mean, that is literally takeover status. I am so excited for next week's NXT. I think if you're not tuning in, like, tune in, because you're gonna miss an amazing show if you're not watching, because it's going to be an amazing show. You know, and I'm loving that Adam Cole is a heel now. He needs to be a heel. Like I've said before, he needs to be a heel. I'm gonna miss the Undisputed Era as a team, but they had an amazing run. You know, you could only do the same thing for so long, so I understand them breaking them up as a team. It does make sense to me. So I'm excited for that match. And we also had the, I don't want to say debut, because he didn't wrestle, but he showed up, of LA Knight. I don't know how I feel about that name. But, I mean, you know, if those of you who don't know, he was Eli Drake from TNA Impact Wrestling. Where he became a pretty big star there, you know. So, interested in seeing what he's going to do in NXT. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, I'm assuming they're going to bring him to the main event picture eventually. Maybe start with the North American Championship picture. Which, speaking of that, the therapy session, the Gargano family therapy session, was everything. I mean, usually random little segments like that might not always be the most entertaining, but that was just literally perfect. In every possible way, literally perfect. I absolutely loved it. Johnny Gargano, Candice LeRae, Austin Theory, and Indy Hartwell. I mean, the four of them, comedy gold in that situation. Even the therapist, I don't know where they got her from, but it was like comedy gold. I loved it. And the only thing I'm sad about is the fact that that one guy from MSK is injured. I feel bad that I can't remember his name right now, but he's injured, and so they couldn't get their tag team title match. I hope that he gets, healed soon and they get their tag team title match, because they need to win the tag team titles. I'm sorry, but Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch bore the hell out of me. Oh my god, so boring. They even look boring. Like, there's nothing about them as a team that's entertaining. In the ring or outside the ring, on the mic, nothing. They're just boring. It's like tap water. It's like watching tap water drip from your sink slowly. It's not exciting. You're gonna sit there and watch tap water drip? I mean, it's just, I don't know. Anyway, I'm sorry if you're a fan of them. I apologize for your taste in tag teams. All right, so AEW. You can't mention AEW this week without mentioning Shaq. I'll give him props. You know, he wasn't bad. He didn't do much. He wasn't bad. I was more excited to see Jade's debut. She was okay. She was pretty impressive, you know. She had a lot of impressive feats of strength, but as far as, like, in-ring ability, she didn't super impress me. Red Velvet, obviously, is at a higher level, in my opinion, than Jade, but Jade was impressive. I was impressed, just not super impressed. Same with Shaq. You know, I mean, for a retired basketball player, you know, he did okay. The one thing I will say is major props to him for going through that table, because that's not an easy thing to do. I mean, I've never gone through 2 wooden tables, but I am assuming it hurts. The funniest part about the whole thing, though, is after going through the table, they zoomed into him. Dude looked like he was knocked the hell out. Like usually people like kind of like roll over a little bit and like, oh, I'm in pain and this and that. He just laid there like he was out like a light. I mean, he was gone. He was done, and I loved it. I mean, he played that off pretty well. But overall, the match was just okay to me. I mean, like, I wasn't super excited about it. It was alright. FTR versus Jurassic Express. Now, that was cool seeing Tully Blanchard back in the ring. After all these years. I mean, obviously he didn't really take any bumps. He didn't really do a whole lot. I don't expect him to at his age. They had that kind of like 4 horsemen reunion in the end. Well, minus Ric Flair. And it was cool, great nostalgia moment. But I was a little upset because I felt like it took the attention off of Jungle Boy, who was before that getting a push that seemed to be maybe almost a singles push, because I mean, he's going to be a main event star. Mark my words, Jungle Boy in the future is going to be a main event star in AEW. But like, one loss is not gonna mess that up. He'll be a main event star still in the future. You know, it's gonna take some time, but you know, I'm hoping it'll lead to a tag team championship first with Jurassic Express. And then after that, so I have to mention the Inner Circle versus the Elite versus the Young Bucks, I should say. MJF and Chris Jericho versus the Young Bucks. I liked when the Young Bucks came out, interrupted their whatever that was the Inner Circle was doing, the press conference. The promo that they gave on the mic was amazing. I loved it. I loved the brawl in the end. The club, the Good Brothers, as they say, the Bullet Club, you know, is friends from TNA came out, and helped them out. They're definitely turning on the Young Bucks. So I mean, it is so obvious. So I'm just kind of waiting for that to happen. I'm assuming maybe it might be at Revolution, causing them to lose the tag titles. I'm not sure. But speaking of the Inner Circle, I miss Sammy Guevara. I hope he comes back soon. I don't know what he's doing. But come back soon, Sammy. We saw Nyla Rose, and let me make sure that I am pronouncing this right. Ryo Mizunami. I think I got that right. I hate butchering people's names. I feel like it's insulting to butcher a name. But especially as talented as she was, I mean, that match was so good. Props to both of them. But props to Ryo for winning. And I'm excited to see her versus Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's Championship at Revolution. The women's division in AEW hasn't super excited me yet. This tournament was great, but over half of it wasn't even on TV, and I think that was kind of lame. I understand the Japan half, wasn't on TV, but there were some matches on the American side that wasn't on TV either. It should have been on AEW Dynamite, and it wasn't. And I think that was silly, because you're trying to show that that the women matter in AEW, but yet you're not actually putting all of their matches on TV. I don't think that's a good idea. When we're having like these Wednesday night wars between AEW and TNA, it's clear that AEW and NXT. Now, I should be crucified for calling NXT TNA. So, oh God, please, that never happened. But NXT clearly has a better women's division by far. But to be fair, AEW has a way better tag team division by far. So, they both know what they're good at. I think they need to work on what they're not doing so well at. On that note, that is my week in review. as always, like and subscribe, and wish Asuka well. Hopefully she returns soon. If you guys have any opinions about anything that I said, please comment and let me know, because I love talking about wrestling. And so, yeah, let's do it. Let's ramble. Let's talk. Let's argue. I don't care. I mean, let's, if you're a fan of Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, let me know. We will talk about it. Again, I apologize for your taste in tag teams, but let's still, we could talk about it. We can talk about it, because I want to pick your brain. And so, yeah, we'll talk about it. All right. See you guys.